Champions. I'm your host, Chris Budihas, and joining me from beautiful Charlottesville, Virginia is Joe Jamison with VisitAble. Joe, how are you?
Hey, Chris, I'm doing well. How are you? Thanks for
I'm
having me
doing.
today.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for coming on. Industry Champions. No, it's great that we got to connect via our friend Tasha. So we appreciate Tasha connecting us. And man, when you and I talked a couple weeks ago about what you do and how you do what you do with VisitAble, I was like, man, I got to get you on a show because you have such a compelling story, one, and then what you do is compelling in so many different ways to today's modern business. So a little bit of background on you. So where are you from originally, and what is VisitAble, and how did you get in this space?
Absolutely. So I'm actually from Fairfax, Virginia, up near DC, and I went to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville and never left. I started actually Visible when I was down there at college and got some conversations and partners up and running, and just kind of been stuck here. I got my roots here. I've really been excited and grateful for this region and the support it's shown me in Central Virginia. Visible is all about changing the way the world views disability. A lot of times people think about disability only in the lens of ADA compliance,
Yeah.
which can sometimes be more reactive and dare I say, even potentially punitive. We hear things all the time like, yeah, we'll make a change when we actually see a person with a disability, or, we don't have any problems because we don't get any complaints. And it kind of creates this chicken and the egg scenario, right? Where, of course, people with disabilities aren't going somewhere. And if they're not there in the first place, there's not going to be any complaints. If there's not this proactive approach to be more welcoming and accommodating and accessible for people with disabilities. And that's what we're passionate about, helping
Yeah.
people have a more proactive and positive mindset about accessibility and accommodating and being inclusive for those with disabilities overall. We accomplish that through disability awareness and inclusion training, coupled with an advocate certification program that we've created to help create more motivation and accountability to really make disability training a priority. And the background of the company, how I got started was because of my father. He's used a wheelchair for my entire life. And growing up, I noticed that accessibility wasn't only just about ramps and elevators, right? It was how people were interacting, is how people, in the face of challenges and barriers, how can they help mitigate those challenges and create better experiences overall? And just to share a couple examples, growing up, I noticed there are times where people would ignore my dad and only speak to me. People would ask intrusive questions, or people would even use outdated verbiage. And I realized that it's not that they had bad intentions, they just didn't know what they didn't know. But regardless of those intentions, my family and I often felt excluded and unwelcome. And I really started Visible based on those types of experiences to create better experiences for people with disabilities to live, work, play, and thrive, and to give employees of different organizations the tools and knowledge and awareness they need to create those better experiences. And so that's what we're really passionate about and what we're focused on.
That's wonderful. Man, I don't know the statistic. I'm sure you do. How many Americans are disabled either physically or mentally? But, that percentage of folks could, there's so many layers to this, right? Like, hey, if I'm looking for employment, but I have some physical disability, I will look at a business and I can go, I'm not going to go interview for that company because I'm just going to self-select out because it doesn't appear to be, either physically, like layout, like you said, capable of supporting my disability. The workforce may not be amenable to somebody with my issues. I mean, there's so many layers to this, and the fact that you can bridge that just through education alone to change a mindset and then have people invest both in the workforce to have a more inclusive environment, and then also the physical capability does matter in this case is pretty substantial. And in many cases, for some businesses, you're probably missing out on, prime talent because just the things you don't think about, you should be thinking about, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Just in case those numbers are helpful for those
Yeah,
listening,
please.
that number has actually been increasing over the past couple of years. I keep up to date with the C2C, kind of statistics for the adult population in America with disabilities. It's been growing. I think when I first started the company, it was around 25% or less, and I believe most recently, if I'm remembering the exact number correctly, it was around 28.7, and that was
Wow.
27 before that, and I think 26 before that. And if you times that percentage times the American adult population, it ends up being around 70 million people. And that's just
Okay.
the adults. And besides that, this is obviously a growing topic, is everyone at some point is going to need accessibility, right?
Yep.
Whether that's through a family member, a friend, or yourself. Like we're all going to age, and ability declines as you age, right? Some things happen. So there's a statistic out there I found that 40% of American adults 65 plus have at least one disability. And because the American aging population is going to be growing over the next couple of years,
Yeah.
the disabled population is also going to be growing through the transit property, right?
Okay.
So it's extremely important. And I'm happy you highlighted the employer experience as well, because if a quarter of the population have a disability, you're really doing yourself a disservice by not allowing yourself to interview and entertain potential candidates that could really be loyal and impactful employees, as well as the customer facing side of things as well, for those businesses that do have frontline staff, and making sure that customers and clients and your customer service is overall going to result in a good experience for those with disabilities.
Yeah, that's great. And Joe, how do you do what you do? What does that look like? So if I'm an employer right now, I'm watching this show, and I'm like, besides go look at VisitAble online, which I'm gonna highly encourage them to go look at your guys' website. But can you give them a little taste of what does that look like as far as that training?
Absolutely. So our training is, we try to keep it digestible. We have a 50-minute option and a 30-minute option.
Okay.
We do have a self-paced online option. So if you think about a typical, when you're onboarded, sometimes with an employer, you get a sexual harassment in the workplace type of module, where
Yeah.
you can take it at your own pace and convenience. We have an option similar to that where it can be easily put as part of onboarding. And we do have supplementary and other live training options as well, because sometimes that just works better for culture and
Right.
reinforcing learning. We, depending on the size of the company, we do complete customizability. And we also have a certification program where
Yeah.
if a company really wants to make disability awareness an organizational priority, they can also benefit from differentiation from our certification. We work with them to do an initial rollout to train at least 80% of staff, and then make the training part of their onboarding process. And by doing those two things, they can earn certification. So that's one of the big ways that we work with employers in different companies, but it really depends on what their goals are and what kind of staffing and team bureaucracy they kind of have
Yeah.
created, and
Yeah.
what kind of system and training procedures they currently have. So we're very flexible and customizable, but there is always opportunities to help get that differentiation and do that certification program that we have.
That's great, Joe. Hey, Joe, how do folks find you and how they find VisitAble?
Absolutely. So let me just pronunciate this, because I know sometimes enunciate,
Okay.
because sometimes people,
Visit
they hear
Able.
visible.
Yeah.
Yes. Visit able. That's how it's spelled.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
V as in Victor, visit able as in
Yep.
Apple. So visit able. And our website is visitable.io.
Okay.
And our LinkedIn, they can just look up visitable or visit able. And on
Yeah.
Facebook, LinkedIn, it's Visitable Certification. X, it's Visitable underscore.
That's awesome. Hey, Joe, what we're going to do is we're going to take all that contact information, put in our show notes. We're going to highly encourage folks to connect with you and I on LinkedIn, and then take a look at what you guys are doing and how you're doing it. And then I'd encourage them, with what you're doing and how you're doing it. It's so important, especially with the statistics you were throwing out, for our population to have that inclusive environment that includes everybody as a consideration. And the time requirement for this training, the return on investment for doing it is much higher than the time requirement to do it, because as you stated, at basically less than an hour in many cases, unless as you guys mentioned, you're willing to do on-site type of engagements with their workforce. So I'd encourage them to take a look at what they're doing and how they're doing business right now and how they can improve it. So thank you for coming on Industry Champions, Joe.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate the time, and I'm looking forward to connecting with the audience.
That's awesome. Well, hey, folks, take a look at Joe and I on LinkedIn. Connect with us, as I stated, and see what they're doing over there. Man, take a look at what you're doing. That's probably a good time to do probably your yearly assessment on the workforce. And then, how are you being more inclusive and helping everybody feel like they're a good part of the team? And then you probably gain some talent through just changing a few processes in many cases. So anyways, we'll see you in our next Industry Champions, and a little gratitude.